colleagues. Good morning, and it's my true honor. I've been part of these events, I think, for the last 5 or 6 years, and it's a special honor to be back after COVID, because what I really wanted to present to you today is something that was really related to the COVID and what we have done for the managers with coaching and coaching sessions during that risk, kind of a crisis management. So my name is Dr. Sasa Bozic. I come from the company called Sophia Academy in Slovenia, Europe. So Sophia Academy, it's all about ancient wisdom for corporate well-being. And for all of you that are a bit into Greek mythology, you know that Sophia is a Greek goddess of wisdom. That's how we came up with the name. And what actually happened, in general in Sophia, we are all about empowering senior executives through 3 different methods. But then at one point, the COVID came. And we were addressed by a multinational corporation coming from the construction industry, saying, and you've addressed, what can we do, right? Should we let our people go? The crisis was there. What should be our next step? Because we have all this theory and MBAs, for the normal circumstances. But none of the senior executives were trained on what to do with the circumstances that we faced during the COVID crisis. And there were 2 aspects on. First, it was, them as leaders, as the captains of the ships, with all these employees. And on the other hand, they were just human beings. And, even their own safety and health was endangered. But were they able to show the vulnerability and saying, guys, I have no clue on what to do within all of this? So we had this beautiful company that they called us and said, do you have any program that would empower our executives, our leaders, to survive this and to, really be strong into believing that we can move forward? And we kind of put together a journey that we call Living the Sophia Way. It was 100 days, and within the 100 days, 17 actual events happened. Some on the group level, some individual. But the main point was, if you recall, some time has passed since COVID, so we tend to forget how it was. But at one point, it was all about me being a human being. So again, coming back to remembering who am I before I become a role. Because you were talking about the serving a leadership, but before I'm a leader, I'm a mom. I'm just a daughter. I'm just I'm human. So really anchoring who am I as a human being before I step into the role that I play in the organization. And through knowing who I am and really connecting with my strengths, I could also observe those strengths that are unique to each of us. All of us here sitting in this room is a human snowflake. There's none that's equal to any other to any other human being. And we've took the approach, we call it the Conscious Life Executive MBA. We really like that. There are so many MBAs. But we took it to the Conscious Life stage. So there are 3 modules, but today I'm just going to briefly talk about the first one, the mind. So the methodology that's behind the journey is the positive psychology. I'm sure you all heard about, the facts of how the psychology addresses human behavior. But since the World War II, when the post-traumatic stress syndrome hit, the psychology was all about repairing the damage. Everything within the psychology was, let's say, asking questions on what's wrong with people? How can we repair human functioning, right? And I have some statistics on, let's say in 33 years of researches, the ratio on how many researches has been done on what's wrong with human race or human behavior compared to what's right with people, what makes us happy, right? Because at the end of the day, this is what we want. It was 21 against 1. So focusing on weaknesses, just repairing and closing the gaps. We go from -5 to 0, meaning we've lost, and I always say, imagine that when you wake up, you have one battery of energy for the day ahead of you. We are different, so the amount of the energy within that battery, it can be different. But there's just one. So it's up to you for which actions, what activities are you going to spend your energy on? And focusing on what's wrong, let's close the gaps. And sometimes I do that exercise and I address people. I said, okay, can we just write down what are the gaps that we need to close? So you will be happy. And there are, like pages of pages. Yeah, and this, and I need new computer and whatever salaries. And then I asked them, guys, okay, but what if we would swap the question and saying, can we just write down what's really amazing, what you really like? And they're, well, we do like some things. And I said, great. Can you, name one? And there are maybe 2 or 3, because we are used to being so focused on negativity and closing the gaps that we are using 80% of that battery for coming to 0. And that's the misconception. 0, it's not +5 where we want to go. And we just have 20% of the battery left to come to where we want to go. So that's why Dr. Martin Seligman, if you guys haven't heard about him, I highly recommend. He's a professor at the Penn University. He was the president of the American Psychological Society. And in 2004, Dr. Seligman created the VIA Institute, asking the question, what's right about people? Which factors promote human flourishing, right? So changing the formula and saying, of course we need to know, what doesn't work and all of that. And yeah, of course we're going to spend those 20% on being aware what we have to repair. But then we're going to check what works and we are going to empower that. We're going to, just explode doing what makes us okay and what works within the organization. So that was the main methodology that we have embedded in our program. So basically it was focusing on going from 0 to +5. And how have we done that? So that's the 100 days. Why 100 days? Because the psychologists say if you want to change the human behavior, you need at least 3 months to some patterns and some activities that we are doing to kind of a change. So I'm going to just briefly go through what we have done with them. So we've created groups of 16 top senior executives from around the globe. They've put the board, and from the board, each of the board members was in charge of one region. So his, direct reports were also then involved. So 200 of them at the end went through the program. So the first thing, it was about being, it was about me. as a human being. Not as a leader, as a human being. Who am I? You know, I ask people questions. Who are you? And you know what I get as an answer? Sasha, oh my God, seriously, I don't have time for this. You know, I have so many emails. So if it's going to be about these Julie Moody's, whatever, you know, like spirituality, sorry. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, that's so, you know, like if you don't even connect, as you were saying, I don't know who I was listening to, that was saying that you need to work as you know, as everything's your hobby. So the first one is the circle of strength. So Via Character Institute from Dr. Seligman, you have it online. They've created the strength, Via Character strengths, that are in 6 virtues, and there are 24 strengths. So we took them each week. We've done one Zoom circle of strength, and we've explained one virtue with the strengths, and we've invited them to really think on which of those strengths that were in that virtue are some that are really close to what they assume it's their strength. And through those sessions, 6 sessions, I invited them to write 5 top strengths and 5 strengths that are at the bottom of the list. At the end, I've sent them the assessment tool so they could kind of compare, you know, what the IE would give them and what they thought as what were their strengths. And because they went into the process of acknowledging who am I and what are my strengths, they were able to then spot the strengths from their colleagues. And this is where we moved to authentic leadership through storytelling. So basically, we went from me to we as a team, and then at the end you will see we went to us. Me, we, us. I connect with, you know, and empower my full potential. I'm fully aware of who I am. I'm not the second best because I'm the first fully empowered me. And then because I know that and I'm not threatened by my colleagues because I don't want to be second best, I just want to fully be me, I also see others. And in authentic leadership through storytelling, we've just went into explaining and sharing stories that people wanted to kind of share on a human-to-human level. We didn't want the stories about, you know, yeah, my KPIs and, you know, and that. I opened the company and, you know, like the profits and the margins and whatever. No, you know, you as a human being within that situation, how did you approach it? Where have you felt vulnerable? How that vulnerability came out as a courage, because there's no courageousness without vulnerability, right? And they started to explain stories from a different angle, from the human perspective. And you should see what happened in the group dynamics. They said, oh my gosh, you know, there are totally different colors to your personality now. So because of the COVID vulnerability and because of they've opened up as human beings, the connections that were established were not about colleague to colleague. It was about human to human. We were in this together. We were in the global crisis together. And if we, at that point, connected on a human-to-human level, you know, of course, there are arguments that can be done afterwards within the positions. But because they were okay as human beings, they've managed them well. After that, we went into the power of archetypes. I don't know if you know about the archetypes, but archetypes are the roles that we play. Let's say brands usually connect archetypes. Let's say Nike is a hero, Harley Davidson is a rebel. So they have this character strength. So we've asked them, and we have done some exercises on if your brand would be an archetype, what it would be. You know, they started to share stories and all of that, and it was really amazing because once even their brand had a personality. And if by any chance that brand's values were similar to theirs, it was an honor for them to work, for that company. So at that point, we've kind of connected them to understanding corporate personality, the values, and to create a deeper connection with the brand they represent. And yeah, we've called those verticals being, because it was about being aware of who you are, then doing when they were with the colleagues, and then living. Of course, to go out there and live and create. Yes. And the last one was about the resilience. So it was very practical tools, methods on how to see and perceive life in a more resilient way. So with that, we've concluded. And at the end, the last thing, we just took them out into the wildness and just really went back to the roots of sitting around the fire and just sharing stories. And it was just, it was amazing. So to conclude the result, and here is, I have human well-being and relationship before concept and strategies. The final result is, if people are seen as human beings and not as a robot, of course it's about economy, of course it's about profit. But my contribution, if I'm loyal, if I'm seen for who I am, goes up dramatically. So that was my message. Thank you for listening. I'm sorry if I'm being a bit over the schedule, but yeah.
Thank you, Sasa. That was a wonderful message on how to navigate uncertainty and complexity in our lives, and that we are humans first before we become professionals. And the 2 points which I gained from the entire talk is that first is we need to focus on our strengths as human beings, not as professionals, strengths as human beings. And secondly, then serve ourselves as how we can align ourselves with the brand that we represent. Does that conclude it?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any questions for Sasa?
Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Utkarsh. I am a first-year MBA student of Indira School of Business Studies. We are, as a human, we are composed of our strengths and weaknesses. But when we try to focus on our strength and becoming more and stronger, but at some point of time, our weaknesses broke us, and we cannot focus on our strength. So how to come out this dilemma between focusing on strength, becoming more stronger, but our weaknesses put behind us. So how to overcome that?
First of all, it has to be a conscious decision. And I'm going to compare this to, let's say, training for a marathon. The brain is a muscle. So whatever you are going to start training your brains to do, you will slowly get there. So don't push yourself. There's no revolution overnight. There are some concepts that we have. But if you are consciously, when you get caught into weaknesses, saying, you know what, okay, yeah, I can do it, but still I'm going to reverse, and I'm also going to write the strengths. And slowly but surely, you'll get there. And there is another very good exercise. It's the gratitude journal. So what you can do is the last thing before you go to bed, literally the last thing it has to be, it's connected with, the brain waves after that. So you take a notebook and a pencil, and you write down 3 good things that have happened to you throughout the day. It doesn't need to be like, getting my degree or diploma. It can just be, my neighbor greeted me, or something like that. And within time, you will see how your brain will slowly start changing to seeing positive more than negative.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sasa. Okay, we can take one last question.
So this is not a question, Sasa, but I just want to, share what I got from your presentation. It was really insightful. The message that I got from when you said from moving to -5 to 0, and then moving from 0 to 5. For me, it's like, moving from the survival mode to the thrival mode. So it was really beautiful the way you put it in numbers. And being, doing, and leading. We have heard about being, doing, and having. So being, doing, and leading is really powerful. Thank you so much.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.